Welcome to the Whole Pack, where we challenge black and white thinking and holistic pet care and dive into the controversial topics everyone's thinking about but nobody's saying out loud. I'm Sunny Gandara.
And I'm Melissa Sherman, and we are two holistic pet health practitioners here to prove that holistic care can include critical thinking, self-care, and yes, even Western medicine when needed. This is a judgment-free community we wish we'd had when we started our journey. Welcome back to the Whole Pack. Today we have a very special guest. It's our very own Sunny Gandara. And the reason I asked her to be a guest is because we were talking about this new concept that she has, the Parallel Plate Project, and it's fascinating. So I thought you as listeners would be interested to hear about it too. So we kind of put pause on the conversation so we could continue it here. So Sunny, welcome, of course.
Thank you so much. Excited.
So you've spent years in professional kitchens, and now you're teaching people to cook for themselves and their dogs. So it's very interesting to me, especially because I want to simplify cooking for myself and cooking for my dogs. So how did these two worlds come together?
Yeah, so, for the longest time, I didn't really think of them as two separate worlds. I've spent years in professional kitchens. I had my own catering company. And, what I learned when I was doing that is that food was never just fuel, right? I mean, it's about care. It's about paying attention to someone, to show love, essentially. And so it finally started to click when when I had Nacho, my Cane Corso, who I named my company after, and he was in the kitchen with me every day while I was cooking. And he wasn't really begging. He was just there paying attention. He was just present for the whole process. And I didn't think much about that until I actually lost him. I lost him to hemangiosarcoma. Many people know that. It was terrible. And I started sort of asking myself, what actually mattered in the time that we had together. And it wasn't about the ingredients and what I put in his bowl. It was that he'd been part of that ritual of cooking for the whole time and not just the outcome of it. And so the idea for the Parallel Plate Project didn't really arrive in some big concept way somewhere. I was already cooking 2 plates every night, right? Mine was plant-based, and then I do a fresh species appropriate diet for my dogs. But, it was the same kitchen, the same stove, the same time, and Parallel Plate is just me finally running something, or naming something rather, that I've been doing for years. And I really wanted to show other people like how fun it can be, and that it's not a chore to feed your dog. It can actually be something fun that you do together.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, just even the passion that you have behind this is inspiring. So something that stood out to me is when you're talking about it's not just about the food that you're putting into it. It's not just when you put the food on the bowl. It's when Nacho is standing with you while you're cooking and he's part of the process. Can you tell me a little more about this? Just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so, this comes from something that I believe pretty deeply, right? It's that the relationship isn't built in the 2 seconds it takes to put a bowl down in front of your dog. It's built in that time while something's cooking and your dog's in the room with you. And, as a chef and cooking for my husband and for my friends, for instance, I can spend hours in the kitchen, but then the time it takes to eat is a lot less.
Yeah.
So it's like you're basically honoring that time it takes, to like, this is an act of love, it's preparing. And that's when you really create a relationship and you are present. Like the only time I can honestly say I'm present and I can be in my own world and I can think about different things is when I'm in the kitchen. That is my sanctuary, if you will. And to have someone else that I love, like my dog, with me there, it's priceless. So always on Sundays or Saturdays, I spend hours in the kitchen and I cook for them, I cook for us. And they have a little taste test. I taste a little bit. And it is just such a special experience. And, especially working with, I work with giant breeds because their time with us, unfortunately, is shorter than we'd like. So every minute I think about that so much ever since I lost Nacho. It's like I want to maximize every minute I have with my dogs and be as present as I can and not take them for granted, right? So every minute standing together at the kitchen counter really counts. I don't want any of those minutes or time going unnoticed just because my back happened to turn while I cooked. I want them to be part of that process, and I really want others to look at cooking as not a chore, as I said before, something I have to do, but something beautiful you can do with your best friend.
That is beautiful. And it's like I can see this connection because you love them so much, and your heart, you're just putting so much love into the cooking itself, that expansion of love is what invites them into that space to spend that time with you and really connect with you. So that whole experience is, I think a lot of us might be guilty of not thinking about that, not considering it. So from your perspective, what do you think the dog's experience is in joining in that process with you, in being in the kitchen with you, in being wrapped in your love that you're pouring into the cooking?
I see how happy they are because they see that I pay attention to them. It's so easy in our world, and we work online. We're always in front of our computers. We're on our phone, and I see people out walking their dogs, which is supposed to be that one-on-one time with your dog, and they're on their phone, and it makes me so sad. And sometimes I'm guilty of it. Like, I am a dog walker too, so I'm like, I have to check my messages, and I'm like, I stop myself. Nope, I'm not checking messages as I'm walking a dog because that is their time. So when I see my dogs in the kitchen, it's like they relax. Like Oslo, for instance, he's at my feet now, and I'm in the kitchen. I happen to have a room in the kitchen where I record this. He just lays down and he's like, I know mommy's here now. And it's just, I don't know, it's just something that, I don't want to think about, oh my gosh, I could have had these moments when they're gone. I want it now. And that's what Nacho did to me. Is like, I was thinking about like, oh my gosh, how could I have been more present, even though I was very present with him. But cooking initially became, I wasn't thinking about that when I was in the kitchen, but now I do. It's like, this is a special time. And it actually, I know we had Dr. Carol Smea on one of our episodes just recently, and she was talking about it, and I just love that because I hadn't thought about that. But the ritual of cooking is really their part of the hunt, right? Because, they don't get to hunt their food now. They just get this bowl plopped in front of them, and what's the fun in that? Being in the kitchen, they can smell all these smells, they can see you chopping up, and they can watch, and it becomes like extra time with your puppy. So I think that, or your cat for that matter, cats come too, right? So I think that, instead of thinking about cooking as oh God, something else I have to do, think about it like, wow, I'm gonna do something fun. Like, I really want to turn the tide around how people think about cooking, not just for their dog, but also for themselves, because it is really something holy you're doing for your own body, is preparing food, being grateful for the ingredients in front of you. And part of that is also eating seasonally and locally and supporting local farmers, and just seeing that whole full circle come to fruition in your bowl. And I think that the meal is just, a sacred experience for both of you. And that I want you to, be able to experience that together.
That's great. And so for those of us that have turned it into a chore, which I'm guilty of, well, first let me say, if you ever have a chance to take a cooking class with Sunny, please do, because she's super inspiring, even for someone like me that, it's always the last on my checklist. It has become a chore, like you're mentioning. And, if someone's listening and kind of thinking the same way as myself, I love this idea. Where do we start? Like, how do we change that perception that we have, and how do we bring this cooking joy and experience to our lives and our animals' lives?
Yeah, so, it would be like, think about the difference between smelling the dinner cooking for an hour versus someone just handing you a plate. They both will feed you, but only one of them makes you feel like you're part of something, right? And so, the homemade piece is just the entry point. You don't have to be a chef. That's what people get like intimidated. Oh my God, I don't know what to put in my dog's bowl. And I try in my cooking classes to really make it simple, because I think we've also complicated it in our human world, right? It's like, oh my God, keto and, all these different diets, and we should just do intermittent fasting and all this stuff. And it becomes so complicated when in fact, just eat whole foods, just eat a variety of whole foods. Like I said before, go to the farmers market. If you haven't been there, don't be shy. Just go and talk to the farmers. They would more than happy give you, recommendations for how to prepare something. And then, of course, if you prepare it for your dog, you don't add a ton of salt or spices and things like that. But, they might be two completely different diets, but they're coming out, as I said before, of the same kitchen at the same time with the same intention behind them. So once you start seeing food that way, as a shared ritual instead of like two separate chores, then feeding time stops being that task on your list, right? And it starts becoming something, as I mentioned before, you're actually really, looking forward to. And I will say dogs get anticipation out of it. They get to use their favorite sense, which is smell, right, for the whole build-up instead of just the finish line. And I think that inclusion changes the entire emotional tone of the meal for them and for us if we let it. So, a lot of the modern, you were mentioning like turning it into a chore. And a lot of that modern feeding culture is built around efficiency, right? Quick and easy, auto feeders, pre-portioned kibble, scoop and go, It's sad. But it's not that it's necessarily wrong, because obviously there are seasons in life where I do that too. I mean, I don't think that I sit for hours cooking every single day for myself and my dogs. There are times where it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to just get something on the plate. But I'm talking about on the average, right? Somewhere along the line, I think, and I'm so passionate about this I'm talking about both humans and dogs, hence the parallel plate. So think about it for yourself as well as for your dog. We often say we feed our dogs better than we feed ourselves, which we shouldn't. We should take care of both of ourselves, and I'm guilty of that. But, efficiency has really replaced ritual almost entirely. Like when I grew up in Norway, we used to meet, we sat down for dinner every single day at 4:30, and that was our time, and it was early because I'm in Norwegian and we eat dinner early. But, it was like that time of uninterrupted, we had chores and we had school and we had work and everyone had their thing, but we sat down for that, even if it only took half an hour. That was our time to ask questions about our day and just to sit there and pay attention to each other. And we've lost that. And I don't think that was something that people consciously chose. It just happened. And then we wonder why we're sick and tired and miserable, because we need that. We need that connection. And so, it's not about, making people feel guilty. It's just noticing, that feeding used to be something we did with our dogs. And for a lot of people, it slowly became something almost like we do to them, right? Yeah. On the way to something else. And that's what I want to sort of kind of reverse and bring back that joy.
Yeah, because there's this disconnection from community, from family, from the actual ritual of eating. And that used to be, for as long as humans were around, that was the time that we would bond together and share things together, break bread together. It's more, it's not just about connection, it's spiritual. It's in us, it's in our DNA, as well as our dogs. Yeah. So, for people that are listening, what is the Parallel Plate Project exactly? Like like you mentioned, we're both vegan, so our plate might look different than our dog, but I'm sure that you can fill that in. But how does it come together, and what would a meal, just an example of a meal, look like for this?
Yeah, so, it started with, I think I've shared this, and I don't know, when this happened, but one of my clients was saying cook for my dog, it's either my husband or the dog. And I thought about it because I had a friend actually come in when I was cooking for the dogs, and, I do the crock pot, Dr. Ruth Roberts, who is, we both trained with, she taught us the crock pot method. And that's something that I really enjoy, because it's just throw everything in, set it and forget it. But it just smelled so good. And the woman was like, it smells so good. What's for dinner? I said, that's for the dog. She's like, the dogs? And then I was like, you could literally just, and it's true, because I don't cook anything. Everything is human, food, obviously. So all you could do is just add some spices to it. So the Parallel Plate Project, to answer your question, is it's still in progress, right? I'm still developing it, and I want to sort of see how I can best, create something that's not intimidating, because I do tend to be complicated in my, processes of cooking, because I'm a chef and I always want to do it so fabulous. But, I realize that for most people, they just need to feed themselves. They need to feed their dogs. Like, what do I do? So I am offering some online cooking classes for my clients. I will teach them also. Like, I do one-on-one consultations. I want to do some group programs that can be a little bit more financially easier on people. If we have a group of 5 to 10 people and we all learn together, and I will teach you how to cook, how it looks like, for instance, if you're cooking for yourself and then a dog. So for instance, I have a plant-based diet, as you have. So I feed beans to my dogs too, but if I had something like, a scramble of like a bean scramble with vegetables, it could be broccoli, it could be some corn, it could be some tomatoes. I do the same for the dog, but I don't add onions, because sometimes I like to caramelize onions and throw in, but I just keep theirs without onion. I keep theirs without a lot of the, like, not anything spicy, but I may add a little bit of turmeric. I may cook theirs very, very low and slow. I don't use any sort of high heat. And then, we actually enjoy some of the same things. So some might be different. I will add some meat to theirs, right? But that's just like an addition, because you don't need to think about dogs as like, my husband is so funny, because he will like cook the meat just perfectly for the dog. I'm like, I don't think they're going to notice the difference if it's sous vide or if it's raw, But he's very much like, oh no, it's like not medium rare,
That's what you get with like 2 chefs in a house, right?
Yes, exactly. So I've sort of let that go and be like, listen, they are just going to be happy because they get fresh food. So again, back to the whole thing of don't overcomplicate it, It's just that, think about it. Anything is better than kibble. Not to shame those that feed kibble, because sometimes we have to, and sometimes that's, all we have. But, the thing is, when you're feeding fresh and you're cooking it low and slow, I mean, the dog would have to be sick or something would be going on if they didn't eat it, because it's just like, it smells good and it's nice and it's fresh. And so eventually I would love to also have a YouTube channel where I will put on cooking shows there, so that it can be a lot of free content also, but also perhaps down the line a layer of subscription layer, for instance, whether it's newsletter based or whatever. But the best thing to do to learn more about it is to get on my email list. So you can check out my website, NachoAverageDogHealthCoach.com, and there is a freebie there actually about canine cancer prevention, because I'm huge on that. And it doesn't mean that you have to be so nervous, oh, my dog's going to get cancer. But the thing is, all the anti-inflammatory components of cooking fresh is there, because if you're cooking fresh food, that's the number one thing best thing you can do for your dog to prevent, any type of, skin issues, digestive issues, and then all the things that eventually could lead to cancer. 1 out of 2 dogs will get cancer in their lifetime. So all the recipes in the Parallel Plate Project, it's really based on my philosophy of a cancer prevention building diet, which for me does include a lot of fresh vegetables, some fruit, but obviously for the dogs we do need a good source of protein in terms of meat, fish, eggs, and sometimes a little bit dairy, depending on the dog.
And for those people that are listening that don't know, you're also a human health coach, so you have that background as well. So that brings in that parallel of also for humans. These are, eating whole foods as a human is also better for you. The same as your dog. So, I mean, it's amazing that you have that background. I'm seeing people reaching out to you for parties and putting together groups of parties, because this is such a great opportunity to be able to learn not only to cook for your dog, but to provide yourself a healthy meal in that same breath. You're doing it side by side. And if you do eat meat, I mean, you could essentially eat the same exact dish.
That's
just
it.
Maybe add a little salt or seasonings, you know, depending what your taste is. So, I mean, I think this is fantastic. It's you're making something that is slower cooking. You're making it into something that's accessible to more people. So, you've told us where people can find out more information. And this is obviously something that you're really passionate about. So where do you see this going in the next few years?
Yeah, so again, I do want that YouTube channel created, but I also want to do some in-person classes because, all of my business is essentially online with the exception of I do work at a vet hospital twice a week as their canine nutritionist. But, I would like to just develop it into a concept where, the point isn't about now you're going to have a perfect recipe for your dog. The point I want with the Parallel Plate Project is more people cooking with their dog in the room instead of being feeding separate. Like I see a lot of humans do. They eat meals separately. They don't get together, and it's so sad. So I think the whole idea of the Parallel Plate Project is bigger than just learn how to cook for your dog and yourself. It's more about what can we do to prevent that disconnection and bring each other together interspecies and also among humans, creating a closer connection. And food is just the vehicle, but food is important, right? We have to eat every single day, so why not make it a little bit more special? So in-person cooking classes I would love to do more of, because then you actually get that connection, right? It's harder to connect on the internet. So so stay tuned. It's still not like fully developed. I mean, of course, it's just the first year. So I'm trying now with just the cooking classes, some sharing something on social media, Instagram. I am on, I have two actually, and one that is not completely developed yet, but it's called Canine Culinary Herbalist, because I do want to bring in more herbs, and I'm talking about more culinary herbs and teaching people how that can also be very beneficial to your health. And of course it helps to get the meals tasting much better. And also I am on Nacho Average Dog Health Coach on Instagram and Facebook as well. So follow me along. Feel free to send me a DM or email me at sunny@nachoaverageDogHealthCoach.com. I read every single email, and again, sending out newsletters here and there, so you'll be the first to know when I put on an online cooking class.
Well, this is wonderful, Sunny. I really appreciate you sharing this with us, because I think it just opens the door for a lot of people just to think differently. And with you as a guide, I mean, they cannot go wrong, because oh my gosh, again, if you don't follow her Arctic Grub, like her cooking channels, oh my gosh, amazing food comes out of there. You're such an inspiration. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and your vision here, because I think it's great for everybody. And thank you, listeners, for joining. If you like this episode, please, send a review, comment, follow on Substack, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and we're at The Whole Pack. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Bye. Before we go, we want to remind you that the information shared on The Whole Pack is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace veterinary medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your veterinarian before making any changes to your pet's diet, supplements, or healthcare routine. Every animal is unique, and what works for one may not be appropriate for another. We're here to empower you with knowledge, but your vet is your partner in your pet's individual care.